The real tragedy of the poor is the poverty of their aspirations. It is not from the benevolence of the butcher, the brewer, or the baker that we expect our dinner, but from their regard to their own interest. No society can surely be flourishing and happy, of which the far greater part of the members are poor and miserable. As soon as the land of any country has all become private property, the landlords, like all other men, love to reap where they never sowed, and demand a rent even for its natural produce. Man is an animal that makes bargains. No other animal does this. No dog exchanges bones with another. Science is the great antidote to the poison of enthusiasm and superstition. Happiness never lays its finger on its pulse. No complaint is more common than that of a scarcity of money. Defense is superior to opulence. All money is a matter of belief. Little else is requisite to carry a state to the highest degree of opulence from the lowest barbarism, but peace, easy taxes, and a tolerable administration of justice, all the rest being brought about by the natural course of things. Labor was the first price, the original purchase, money that was paid for all things. It was not by gold or by silver, but by labor, that all wealth of the world was originally purchased. Virtue is more to be feared than vice, because its excesses are not subject to the regulation of conscience. To feel much for others and little for ourselves, to restrain our selfishness, and exercise our benevolent affections, constitute the perfection of human nature. Consumption is the sole end and purpose of all production, and the interest of the producer ought to be attended to, only so far as it may be necessary for promoting that of the consumer. This is one of those cases in which the imagination is baffled by the facts. The propensity to truck, barter, and exchange one thing for another is common to all men, and to be found in no other race of animals. What can be added to the happiness of a man who is in health, out of debt, and has a clear conscience? I have never known much good done by those who affected to trade for the public good. It is not by augmenting the capital of the country, but by rendering a greater part of that capital active and productive than would otherwise be so, that the most judicious operations of banking can increase the industry of the country. The real and effectual discipline which is exercised over a workman is that of his customers. It is the fear of losing their employment which restrains his frauds and corrects his negligence. On the road from the city of skepticism, I had to pass through the valley of ambiguity. Labor was the first price, the original purchase, money that was paid for all things. Great ambition, the desire of real superiority, of leading and directing, seems to be altogether peculiar to man, and speech is the great instrument of ambition. With the greater part of rich people, the chief enjoyment of riches consists in the parade of riches. Resentment seems to have been given us by nature for a defense, and for a defense only. It is the safeguard of justice, and the security of innocence. Adventure upon all the tickets in the lottery, and you lose for certain. And the greater the number of your tickets, the nearer your approach to this certainty. The theory that can absorb the greatest number of facts, and persist in doing so, generation after generation, through all changes of opinion and detail, is the one that must rule all observation. Never complain of that of which it is at all times in your power to rid yourself. Mercy to the guilty is cruelty to the innocent. It is not very unreasonable that the rich should contribute to the public expense, not only in proportion to their revenue, but something more than in that proportion. Virtue is more to be feared than vice, because its excesses are not subject to the regulation of conscience. Wherever there is great property, there is great inequality. For one very rich man, there must be at least 500 poor, and the affluence of the few supposes the indigence of the many. The affluence of the rich excites the indignation of the poor, who are often both driven by want and prompted by envy to invade his possessions. Individual ambition serves the common good. All for ourselves, and nothing for other people seems, in every age of the world, to have been the vile maxim of the masters of mankind. Problems worthy of attacks prove their worth by hitting back. The learned ignore the evidence of their senses to preserve the coherence of the ideas of their imagination. How many people ruin themselves by laying out money on trinkets of frivolous utility? What pleases these lovers of toys is not so much the utility as the aptness of the machines which are fitted to promote it. All their pockets are stuffed with little conveniences. They contrive new pockets, unknown in the clothes of other people, in order to carry a greater number. The subjects of every state ought to contribute towards the support of the government, as nearly as possible, in proportion to their respective abilities. Civil government, so far as it is instituted for the security of property, is in reality instituted for the defense of the rich against the poor, or of those who have some property against those who have none at all. There is no art which one government sooner learns of another than that of draining money from the pockets of the people. We are but one of the multitude, in no respect better than any other in it. Man naturally desires, not only to be loved, but to be lovely. Consumption is the sole end and purpose of all production. The poor man's son, whom heaven has in its anger visited with ambition, goes beyond admiration of palaces to envy. He labors all his life to outdo his competitors, only to find the end that the rich are no happier than the poor in the things that really matter. The great source of both the misery and disorders of human life seems to arise from overrating the difference between one permanent situation and another. The prudent man always studies seriously and earnestly to understand whatever he professes to understand, and not merely to persuade other people that he understands it. And though his talents may not always be very brilliant, they are always perfectly genuine. A man must always live by his work, and his wages must at least be sufficient to maintain him. They must even upon most occasions be somewhat more. Otherwise it would be impossible for him to bring up a family, and the race of such workmen could not last beyond the first generation. Hatred and anger are the greatest poison to the happiness of a good mind. Virtue is excellence, something uncommonly great and beautiful, which rises far above what is vulgar and ordinary. The furious behavior of an angry man is more likely to exasperate us against himself than against his enemies. Public services are never better performed than when their reward comes in consequence of their being performed, and is proportioned to the diligence employed in performing them. Little else is requisite to carry a state to the highest degree of opulence from the lowest barbarism, but peace, easy taxes, and a tolerable administration of justice, all the rest being brought about by the natural course of things. The natural effort of every individual to better his own condition is so powerful that it is alone, and without any assistance, not only capable of carrying on the society to wealth and prosperity, but of surmounting 100 impertinent obstructions with which the folly of human laws too often encumbers its operations. What improves the circumstances of the greater part can never be regarded as an inconveniency to the whole. No society can surely be flourishing and happy, of which the far greater part of the members are poor and miserable. By means of glasses, hotbeds, and hot walls, very good grapes can be raised in Scotland, and very good wine too can be made of them at about 30 times the expense for which at least equally good can be brought from foreign countries. Would it be a reasonable law to prohibit the importation of all foreign wines, merely to encourage the making of claret and Burgundy in Scotland? In general, if any branch of trade, or any division of labor, be advantageous to the public, the freer and more general the competition, it will always be the more so.